So let's start off with segment one. The 20% easy wins. So Eve's helped me out here. I'll probably forget them, but we made some clips of last week's episode and got it out. We touched base with a few more pods and a couple more in. I've got a list of like 10 we've been reaching out to. Those are relatively easy wins. Eve's just gonna set us up on TikTok, Insta, and Lens. Hopefully tomorrow, Eve's, I think. Clinomenic and Rather Mercurial this week had a chat, and we're gonna get set up on GitHub. More of that in a second. But relatively easy win. Unless I'm missing anything, Eve, that was pretty much it, right? Is there anything else?
Not that I can think of. No, 20% wins, 80% wins. The sort of anti-establishment.
Just on the 20% wins. I think that was the tick that we got done this week. So we wanted to throw it out to people in the chat and you guys here on the call. What would you, just in terms of other 20% wins you can think about, like the easy shit that we can do in the next week? Maybe something's on. What do you guys think? Is there anything else that we're like, let's just get that done?
One of the things that Mercurial and I were talking about in terms of easy things to get the ball rolling is just deciding. This is what you said we will talk about later in this episode: the values, the purpose, PodsDAO. If that can be expressed in a couple paragraphs, then that can eventually be like the mission statement clause in some kind of constitution. Whether, and we talked to, because he's also into the legal engineering stuff, talked about whether or not a legal entity would be needed, all this stuff. But in any case, it would be great to have some kind of agreement on the core values or purposes, because then it would make all these conversations about tooling and monetization a bit easier if we're all in alignment on what it is we're trying to do. So I think in terms of a concrete thing, if there's just some kind of a paragraph or two kind of mission statement for PodsDAO or purpose stuff in that area, eventually that can be included in some constitution, if that's of interest to people. That's what the conversation I had with Mercurial led to.
Cool. So I'm just going to make a note of these easy wins. Anybody else?
Well, I think on that same sort of question of the core purpose of the DAO, I think I saw this floating around in our chat, but also deciding who a member is. Are people joining who are just hosts? Is it the podcast itself that's a member? Could the producer join, the engineer? Who exactly should be a member of this DAO was another good question to tackle kind of early on, I think.
So okay, let me share some thoughts on both these. Not in terms of I have the answers, but just because what Rather Mercurial he's probably listening in now and is going to say is the way I understood Rather Mercurial saying it is almost like sort out the purpose first, then who the members are kind of flow, because questions of who is only podcast hosts members, or is it contributors, that kind of flows from, do we want to be a PodsDAO that really prioritizes money for the hosts, then contributors a little bit less? Are they full members less? What's our kind of values? Like everyone who's contributing, no matter what they do for us, equal member, because that's our ethos, and then it kind of flows from that. So that's the way I understood their advice. All these questions kind of flow once you've sort of really got your values down and what's what. Clinomenic, you're the governor. Maybe you've something to say on that. But these all need to be worked out pretty pronto. The only thing I'd say is, like, me and Eves just mentioned this, didn't we, before we started, Eves? It's like, do we worry about sorting all these questions out now? Because we kind of have to be able to move the ball. But say if there's only 4 of us now on the call, a couple of people joining on chat, we download, a couple of people have their comments in the Telegram this week. Are we leaving 80% out? what's their say? So we said, should we start these discussions now, kind of get it in a direction, and then whoever joins next week can feed in. So we kind of socialize the values over the course of the next 3 or 4 weeks. So at least we can kind of go, all right, not everybody got their say, but like, like we did a few weeks, like that's decent, you know? So how quickly do you think we have to sort definitively these questions? Or maybe we just have to get the ball rolling?
I mean, I think what you were saying, you know, like look, at the end of the day, we can't like adhere to, we can have ideals, right? But there's no like perfect way to do it that's perfectly decentralized and perfectly leaderless and perfectly, you know, not a horizontal or not a vertical hierarchy, and you know, but I think, yeah, I would imagine that's the trajectory. Like you're saying, we do it for a couple of weeks, see what everyone thinks, we get a consensus, and then, I mean, just because we're sort of setting them in stone now so that we can move forward doesn't mean that they won't sort of like evolution, you know, chips away over time. You know, like little additions will be made here and there, and so I think that'll work itself out. I guess, yeah, it's a natural. I guess it's a natural process. That's kind of how I see it, and I don't see anything. My point in saying this is I don't see anything necessarily wrong. Like, I know it's a touchy subject, but you know, with like if we go a couple weeks and not many other people turn up, it's like, well, what are we supposed to do, guys? You know, that yeah. So I think
have to
it's
keep
sensible.
moving the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you make it open in the future for change, you know what I mean. As long as you keep it open. If we go on and go, well, this is what it's about, and that's it. You know, screw you if you're trying to do this, and you know what I mean. Like, oh, that's not a good idea. We don't agree. You know, then yeah, that's not a good path forward.
Okay.
One other thing that
oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
It's a slight topic change, but within the 20% conversation. So if you wanted to add something to what Yves was saying, you should go first.
No, because I'm gonna leave it to the next segment. It fits in nicely there. I was gonna bring it back to the 20% just to see if there's any last easy wins, and then move on, flowing into the bigger questions. Yeah.
So I think one other easy thing we could do would be to set up. We had talked about in the last call I think a mirror page to start documenting the journey of PodsDAO, somewhere to put that mission statement once we have it, who we are, etc. I think that's another easy win. And if we don't have it already, we probably are going to want one maybe email address to use on all of these accounts.
Yeah.
Where people could start contacting the PodsDAO as well. And I'm happy to help set up the.
We have an email address used. Do we?
No, we don't. So
But we need to figure. We have a Gmail that we use.
Yeah.
YouTube channel and stuff.
Yeah.
Can we? Is that something that we can use? Perhaps in all these things, it's who gets access and stuff. But at least we have that. With the mirror, that's a blog, isn't it, Jonathan? That's where people would say document in written form what's going on here and
exactly. Yeah.
That's like an accompaniment to the podcast episodes that we're doing here. Someone would do it in written form. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. We could even upload the transcripts of these podcasts up there.
Okay. Yeah, that's a cool idea.
And it's a good idea. With the SEO, you were saying that's a good idea, isn't it? Yeah. And it's also good for podcasts that were on it. So yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's uploading it to Mirror is also good because I think it saves to Arweave. I think that's the decentralized database that it gets published to. So it's like a good censorship-resistant storage of a lot of this stuff too, which is sort of one way of walking the Web3 walk rather than just talking about it to an extent. Not that like the transcripts are like super politically sensitive things that are going to get censored by governments or anything.
Oh, well,
so far.
But give us time. give us a minute, Glenn. A minute. We can't burn the system down in 2 weeks. Is there any other blog platforms that are written form that are not that are either Web3 or Web2 that we should be on?
Paragraph.xyz is a newsletter, which it can work in a Web2 way, but you can also token gate it and do all the fancy Web3 stuff. That's pretty intuitive. But you can also treat it like a normal Web2 newsletter for people that aren't as into or as literate with all the Web3 stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm not super
Was there
familiar.
any
So if you
other 20? Yeah, go ahead.
no,
Go
just
ahead,
I was
please.
saying I'm going to say I'm not super familiar with Mirror. Pretty sure I've been there before, but like I don't know the ins and outs. And same with I guess the sort of like blogosphere. I'm not like too aware of what's going on there. So yeah, I guess it would be interesting to hear like what you guys think and why, and like what
We could, well, just in the interest of time, maybe we can come back to that one. Just looking at it's 20 past. We can maybe even find someone in the DAO who wants to take that on and do blogs every week or every 2 weeks or whatever it is. And who can give us the download. We also need to think about ways to incentivize people to do that. That's maybe going to come out of the discussions on the next segment here. So is there any other 20% that note down that anyone can think of, easy wins?
I think Jonathan's point about talking about other recent episodes of podcasts in the network is a great like conversation material for this podcast, but also a great way to promote podcasts in the network. So the various podcasts that are already affiliated with Blockchain or the handful of other podcasts in this network so far, if there's any new episodes that we listen to between come every one of these episodes, highlighting those and talking about those, I think it's a good way to kind of I don't know, like more tightly integrate this network of podcasts creators.
And that's also good because obviously it's going to be interesting for people to listen to that. We'll include the podcasters that come on the show to do it. We'll create good content that's actually topical and not just business, but also we can tag the podcasters in their network, and then that's good network effects and all that.